Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's Natter. We've got some very, very special guests tonight. I'm really, really excited to hear from these two amazing ladies. For those of you that haven't heard Natter before, let me just explain a little bit about what we talk about, what we natter about. So my name's Natalie Healy-Shields. My background is in marketing, but I've been in network marketing for the past 15 years. So I help people build up a second income stream, sharing our amazing products and helping other people to do exactly the same. In 15 years, our company, with 15 years of me working with the company, we are in now 160 countries around the world. The company's actually been going for 40 years. And in 15 years, I've actually got to the #1 position in the UK, helping people get up and running with us. And I've actually had that position for the last 5 years, and I have got to #2 in the world. However, I've dropped down the ranks a little bit recently because I had a third child at the age of 40, so a little surprise came into my life, and I've taken some time off and enjoyed being an older mum, if you like. So I've got 2 teenagers. Will is 16, Rosie is 15, and Phoebe is just 3 years old. And I've literally worked around my children, building my business. So one week we interview someone from a network marketing background, sharing their success, why they got started, sharing tips about what we do. And then on the alternative week, we interview someone who has change their business since the pandemic, because it's been so amazing seeing all the changes people have had to make and how creative people have become, and also seeing different niches in the market. So it's great to be able to pick up skills from other people and realize how much you can build a business online. So please, if you've got any questions, please ask them in the comments if you're listening in live, or if you're not, then please, comment and we will most certainly get back to you. If you're someone that would like to be interviewed, whether you're in network marketing or have had to change your business since the pandemic, then please, I would totally love to hear from you. I've got so many inspiring people coming up. It's pretty amazing. Now, we have had our kids at home for the last 12 weeks. In some ways, it's flown by. In other ways, it feels like forever. Having the house to yourself and having silence just seems a long time ago. And I'm sure there's lots of mums just like me who are, well, just counting down till Monday and the kids going back to school. What a treat that's going to be. But equally, being a mum of 3, I realised that the mental health of our children has really suffered since the pandemic. So I know there's also a lot of mixed feelings, anxiety. I've got my daughter who's excited to go back to school. My son who really, well, he'd rather just be at home, doing it at home and chilling out a little bit more. Maybe that's just the 16-year-old. And then I've got my 3-year-old who started at nursery. I've been trying to up her days a bit because she's going to be a very young 4 when she starts school full time, and she's finding that a little bit too much. And she's not the most confident person, so we're always questioning ourselves. So this evening I am going to be joined by 2 teachers, or they've got teaching backgrounds, who since the pandemic have seen a niche and a need in the market and set up an online mentoring business. So I will let them tell you a little bit about this. So let me invite Sophia and Gemma to join us this evening. Good evening, ladies. How are you?
Hello, Nat. We're good. How are you?
I am very good, thank you. And like I say, a little anxious about the kids going back to school, but I have to say more excited. Maybe that's selfishly for me, having some time back and some peace. And I know, the kids being back at school, it's the best place for them, because for me, that's where I see my children thrive. So just start off, just introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about your background in any order you like.
Sure. So I'm Sophia, one half of Toddlers Teens and Between. both myself and Gem are actually trained as teachers together through the Teach First programme. And we went off, one in primary and one in secondary school. And I was based in secondary, so I really worked with a teenage group of students. I was teaching English. I was head of year. So I had a lot of pastoral experience, and that's really where my passion lies. And now I work part-time in an all-girls Catholic West London school. And yeah, that's kind of where I am at the minute. And recently just begun Toddlers Teens and Between with Gem. And yeah, Gem, you share a bit as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Gemma. Yeah, as Bea said, we did our teacher training together. Teaching isn't something that I've always wanted to do, which is controversial, but I did a psychology degree, and I've always been interested in people and their mental well-being and the health of people, and I was always the empathetic one, or the one who would be the ear to listen to, and so I've always wanted to have that and use that. So I kind of fell into teaching, literally got the job the day before I was going traveling for at least 8 months, but was potentially never coming home, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll come home. Did my teaching degree and went to work in some inner city London schools doing primary, and yeah, moved a few schools. So I've done the state, I've done private schools, and I've always just been interested in Senko roles, but more the mental health side of the child and the whole approach to a child. So I did some Senko training, however I fell pregnant and I couldn't continue with that. But I also felt like it wasn't the fit that I wanted. It was, this is the next step, but not quite. So separately, I was doing some counselling and coaching courses for adults. And then literally just before COVID hit, I was doing my level 3 in counselling and coaching children with Place to Be. But COVID hit and I was heavily pregnant. So when they all rejoined the class, COVID friendly, I couldn't because I was pregnant again. So that's on hold at the moment. And I was speaking to Phi, and I was just like, it's needed. Something is needed right now. I was speaking to a friend, and she was like, her kids are getting nothing at school. And I was like, this is not okay. And I started doing some sessions about mental health and just how to handle your emotions, but in a child-friendly format. And yeah, that's where we are now. So
my children, so they're in a private school, and last Friday they had a wellness day where they were off their laptops, iPads, everything, and they had different activities that they could do throughout the day. And obviously the kids, they run from age 2 to 18 at this school. Wow. So my teenagers were typical teenagers with, you know, some of these tasks are so babyish, but you know, it's suiting the whole school. But it was a great initiative, and it really did help.
So my role at school is student wellbeing coordinator. So we put together like a menu of wellbeing activities. And on the 5th of February, in National Children's Mental Health Week, the end of the week was this wellbeing day. And there were loads of activities and loads of engagement as well. We got hundreds and hundreds of responses from our students saying, the school cares about us. I realised that they care about their mental health. It was just powerful to see our young people realise that us as educators and those are in schools do care about more than just their academic achievements and performance, and recognise the major impact of the pandemic, and just like simple things like in massive amount of screen time and what that does to your eyes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm 45 now, and the life of a child, teenager, those teenage years that are so precious is so different now. You know, seeing what my kids have to go through and how they communicate. You know, they're constantly on screens, and
it's so hard as well.
There's no escape ever, is there?
Yeah, and especially now that education's moved online, it's finding that balance between, like, okay, these sessions are really important, but also they're on Zoom, so they've got to have enough interaction and enough engagement, but also their mental health. Like, if you imagine the generation that we're bringing up now, like we weren't even brought up with so much screen time and so much interest, and we were brought up with, you go across the road and you play with your friend, like, and it's nowadays, it's, you want to get them away from the screen to ensure that they are getting that approach with children and their peers. But at the same time, this pandemic's hit and that's all they now know. And it's going to be hard to undo that almost.
Yeah, it is. It's just, and the relationships are so different. And I think from COVID and not being around their friends in person, I think it's going to be a real change for them as well. It's funny, my daughter the other night was, I was working. In fact, I was doing Natter last week, and I came upstairs after, and she'd been up into the attic and she knew there was a box of photos up there from when I was her age. So she's basically been trying to see what I got up to at age 15 to see what she can get away with.
So clever.
It was so different then, because you could get away with stuff without your mum knowing, because none of it is posted on social media. Nobody's going to take a photo of you without you knowing, because it just wasn't like that then. So it's almost like, I feel in many ways, you know, children's, their growing up has been stolen from them. We grew up so differently.
It's so interesting, the teenagers at my school and in the experience of teenagers that I've mentored privately as well, that we as adults are having to adjust to their love of screens and their love of social media and what it represents for them, whilst also trying to build their self-worth outside of social media, because so much is attached to my likes, my comments, my shares, my follows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, that how horrifically damaging is that? But also not then removing social media, because that's not the answer. It's about, and that's kind of what we are working to, is how to make them recognize their strength and their power and their wonder.
It's funny as well, you know, Will and Rosie, I'm split up from Will and Rosie's dad, and he's a teacher, a head of year in a senior school. And, you know, we get on very, very well. We've brought the children up together, but they've been with me, you know, the majority of the time, and they'll go to him in school holidays and weekends because we live too far apart. But, you know, at times I'll be like, well, do I just take the phones off them? You know, when they've done something, maybe they're not, you know, getting the reports that we want or whatever. And he's like, you know, you can't do that, because you're almost cutting off their communication and then missing out, because, you know, it is just so different from, you know, I say to the kids, you know, if I had to speak to my friends, it was on the phone, in the wall, in the kitchen.
Yeah. And you knew your friends' landlines off.
Yeah. On the landline.
My sister used to fight all the time over, if you were using the landline, you couldn't use the internet. So we had a rule of either you have the internet or the phone or the TV. So what and we have to
we're from the Ice Age.
I know.
I sound really old, like actually think I'm really young in my head.
It's going to change so quickly. So actually the business you're setting up, it's going to become probably even more important. So tell us a little bit about Toddlers, Teens and Between. I think my kids fit into all of that.
Yeah. I think that's our point, is that we realised that there is this sort of gaping hole in especially our education system, and also parental knowledge of mental health and emotional wellbeing support. And so Gem was definitely the creator of this, and then I got on board, and she'll tell you a bit more about that. But we offer 3 different things. So we are supporting all the ages, the toddlers, the betweens, we call them, which is essentially primary school children, and then the teenagers, and their parents. So we have 3 things. One is these positive mental health courses, which we offer in primary schools, we offer in nurseries. So it complements, you know, the PSHE curriculum, the EYFS framework. We also offer one-to-one mentoring. So that's where I come in with my teenage support. And finally, we offer troubleshooting calls for parents about all ages. And in fact, Gemma just told me yesterday about the troubleshooting call she had with a mum with a toddler who was like, but I've got a toddler, what are the issues that I could possibly have? And made huge difference with her. So yeah, those are like the 3 services we provide. And it kind of all sparked from Gemma, which is, Gem, explain what happened.
So as I said, I just was talking to a friend and I was horrified. And then I thought, oh my God, on the grand scale, children aren't getting stuff. Like, what are they getting? So I went into, obviously being a teacher, I know the curriculums, but I went into the PSHE curriculum and the EYFS curriculum for Key Stage 1 and 2 and early years. And I thought, right, I want something that complements it, because I don't want it to be added work for teachers. I don't want it to be added work that we're just creating that's got no benefit. So I've created a curriculum essentially that is around the PSHE curriculum that exists, but is more tailored to your mental health and your well-being and emotional coaching and emotional regulation. And it's broken down for toddlers to understand. And then you've got your Key Stage 1 and your Key Stage 2. So they're all different. They're the same themes, but they're just the language and the delivery, I suppose, is adapted for the particular age groups. And just the response we're getting has been huge and been really supportive. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is so needed. It's like so important. And I think the hardest point at the moment, which we've touched upon, is the screen time balance. So if they're on Zoom all the time, to then have another thing that's not school, which is on Zoom, is like, parents are finding that quite hard. And I totally get that. And we totally want to make it work. So hopefully once COVID is in the past and we've got over it, that ideally the sessions would be either in small groups, could do one-to-one sessions, just really adaptable to whatever kind of setting we're allowed to be in. And that's the positive mental health coaching sessions that we deliver to the schools. And then the troubleshooting calls, I was just like, there's so many things when you have been teaching that you just know and you learn about, and all the trainings that we've gone on. And it's almost like you take for granted that you know it, because that's what you know. So we decided to basically share our knowledge with the troubleshooting aspect, because we've done training and I understand the emotions behind even a toddler.
Give us an example of maybe a troubleshooting question or problem that you've had.
So an example, okay, I'll use the one that was most recent. So tantrums. So this mum and dad had trouble with just tantrums that their toddler was throwing. And tantrums are completely natural. Tantrums are completely, every child will go through them, my child included. Like, you can't short circuit that, but it's how to de-escalate it, what kind of questions, and how you as the adult can hold yourself and hold the child into a safe space and allow them to kind of understand the emotion, regulate the emotion, and bring themselves back down. So basically, as we would as adults, you get angry, you escalate, you think, oh my gosh, I need to calm down. You bring yourself back down, you think about it. But for a toddler, those are like huge steps. Even for a between, those are like huge steps. So just about giving them tips and practical tools to help them get their toddler to that stage. Because at the moment, toddlers can't get themselves there. They need guidance and they need help. So instead of...
I presume, this is great for new parents, but also we know that none of our children are the same.
Yeah.
And you come across different challenges. I mean, gosh, with 3 kids, I've had different challenges with all of them. So I guess it's having a bit of a sounding board and someone to bounce off and telling you that you're doing all right.
Yeah. I think affirmation. Yeah.
And I think also just in terms of having it tailored to your child is actually, because you could be like, well, they don't respond to this, they don't respond to that, in which case it's a great conversation for me to have with that parent to then make sure that I am benefiting what's going to work in their life, because there's just, each child is so different and each situation that they may respond to is so different. So it was a really, really, I'm pleased the mum enjoyed the phone call and found it really relevant, because I just thought it was a really positive kind of step in the right direction. And if we can label the emotions for the toddlers and the betweens, and we can get them recognizing how to calm themselves down, and the parents can do that and they have the tools to do that, then the children will grow up with those tools to do that.
So with your mentoring sessions or group sessions, is it the parent and child on, or just the child?
That's a great question. So yeah. Oh, sorry, Gem. I was just going to say that we've got our mentoring, which is just the teenagers, and that is just for the teenager. And then we've got our positive mental health courses, which is for the toddlers and betweens. And then the troubleshooting calls are for parents. So we do, I mean, we just had recently a parent wellbeing session, which was attended from loads of different countries around the world, which was so exciting because we went global. And you can see that parents across the world, everybody's got a different circumstance situation, but everybody can relate to each other. And that was just like a free monthly session that we're offering parents as well, because as much as we're looking after and wanting to care for the mental health of young people, let's think about parents and their mental health and how majorly and massively the incredible parents of the world have coped. And just,
well, I think as well, as a parent, if you have a problem with your child, whether it be health, mental health, you almost question yourself, feel like you failed, and it does totally affect your own mental health as well. And and I mean, I think we get this a lot with mums working as well, and you've got that mum guilt thrown in.
Guilt on, do I send them to nursery? Do I not send them to nursery? Do I on literally everything? Do I go to work? Do I not go to work? And I just think there was nothing out there that was kind of a sounding board for parents that was also based in research and advice. So yeah, that's how we were kind of born.
Also, for both of us, we are both mental health specialists. So, and in my case, especially in the teenage, I deal with very extreme cases. So we often complement the child and adolescent mental health services that are, especially in our UK and kind of similar services across the world. And so that's especially my background for teens. So in a way, I am unshockable, as is Gemma. She's amazing at that. And so in the support that we provide for the young person, there is always the wraparound. So we are there for the parent. We're there to say, well, sorry, not you. It's just for this little one. No, of course not. It's going to be a family thing. And for example, having a mentoring session with a student who has extreme anxiety, and we know that they're coming back to school, and how they cope with that. We would include the parent in that mentoring session, for example, and talk about where is their uniform? Have they tried it on? Where is their school bag? Let's talk about the morning. What's the journey going to look like? Are they going to wear their visor and mask? And it's the very little details, but for me, in my kind of mentoring for the teens, we will always include the parents as part of that so that it's a team effort. That's I
think that's probably our biggest question really now is, what can we be doing to prepare our kids, whether they're toddlers, teens or in between, to go back to school next week?
Great question. So, okay, I think it's very different for the age ranges that we work with. So obviously Gem's the between expert and the toddler, and then I do lots of the teen stuff. And teenagers have the emotional literacy. They do have the words to describe what they're feeling, but it differs. Some of them just blank don't want to talk to you, and they're like, no, I'm fine, but they're not fine. Or you're noticing that they're feeling very tense, very emotional, very stressed out. And so really the very first thing to do is to have a real good sit down conversation and say, let's just have a chat. And whether it not be a sit down conversation and not face to face, you can always do side to side. So go off on a nice little walk and just be like, talk to me about school. What are your 3 things you're most nervous about? And what are the 3 things you're most excited about? So that you're kind of, as a family and a parent, reflecting on the good and the harder points of returning to school. And then it's the very practical things like, where is your planner? Have you got your pencil case? Let's get all of that prepped and organised. And another practical part of that is kind of getting their sleep rhythm back into place. Because what I've heard from so many teenagers, they go to bed at 6 a.m. What? My mind is blown. How? So it's about returning Yeah, it's about returning to a better.
I have to say, I've been doing just that this week, and my teenagers have been being woken up at 7 a.m.
There we go.
Walking the dog with me. The other one's looking after the little one, so that we can get into routine, ready for.
It's a bit like jet lag. Yeah, and actually, that's a really great step, is to wake them at their school waking time. And another thing is to, if they have trouble with anxious thoughts before going to sleep, either providing a little notepad or journal by their bed with a pen to allow them to release the thoughts in their mind, just to sit on the paper until the morning. And other ideas are putting on mindfulness apps like Headspace, or listening to sleep stories with Calm. Loads of our teenagers have said that's really helped. And also for families to really think and ask their teenager, do you want me to listen to you right now, or do you want me to provide solutions for you right now? Because a lot of the time our teens either need to vent or they need help. And sometimes it's not both. And so it's useful to say, what is it you would like from me today? What can I do for you? Is it just a lending ear, or should we come up with some practical solutions together? And also for families to know that anxiety and the anxiousness of going back to school is prevalent throughout the whole country and really the whole world for a lot of our teenage students, and to not feel alone with that. But it can feel scary if you don't know how to help a young person with anxiety. And
I get it a lot with my little one, because she's just used to being with mummy all the time, and her starting nursery on the way to school, she'll say, "Mummy, I'm feeling nervous."
And
she wants me to tell her teacher that she's feeling nervous, so her teacher knows.
Oh, so that's amazing that she's connecting the words with what she's saying. Like, that's actually really big. In terms of for a between, or even a toddler starting nursery, similar to the teenagers, so you need to get their circadian rhythm, make sure they're getting enough sleep. More talking through the physical, practical elements of going back to school. So what are you excited about? Where do you think you're going to sit? What do you think the school classroom is going to look like? So remind them of the physical aspects that's going to be around them, so that when they walk in, it's not like, I don't remember any of this. And a lot of them would have moved year groups and maybe only been there for a short amount of time. I can't really remember how long the schools were open for, because that was right at the beginning of my maternity leave. But their classrooms changed. They've only really got to know their teacher online. So just refamiliarizing them and making it really vivid in their heads. I think they might be less articulate, but as you go older in the school, they'll have the language. So it's really about providing them with the solutions and the space to sit with how they feel. And
I suppose really a real key thing is actually just giving your children the time, because we can all be so busy. And I know, working from home, working from my phone a lot, sometimes the kids will be talking to me and I'm busy on my phone, and you just kind of have to actually think, no, put it down, let me be present in this moment and take this conversation. Whereas it's easy to brush things off sometimes when you're busy. And so it's been a listen, I guess.
I think that's like active listening, where you are sitting and you are taking on board what they are saying, even reflecting statements back to them that they've said. So they say, I feel nervous. You say, oh, you feel nervous. What does that feel like? So you're really listening to how they're feeling and what they're thinking. And then also things like not putting too much pressure on it, not being like, oh my God, you're so excited, you're going back to school. Like, that's your take on it, because you're obviously very excited for your child to go back to school. But just allowing them to respond. Like, it might be a really nothing day, it might be a really exciting day, it might be a really overwhelming day. And I think just not going in with the preconceptions of, are you excited to go back to school? Because they don't know, that they might be just having loads of emotions. And also, depending on the age, like toddlers and the young ones, this is all they know. Like, for all they know,
I guess we'll need to go back to that feeling of when they started school for the first time, or they started high school for the first time, and how they felt then. Because when they haven't been engaging with friends, seeing friends, wearing masks all together, they're going to have all of those feelings, rather than us thinking, oh, they're just going back to school to their friends that they know.
Also, they've taken on a lot more than I think anyone would give them credit for, in terms of they're aware, like, depending on their age, obviously, but they're aware COVID is around. They're aware that there's this big, scary thing that might kill somebody. And it's about managing that as well. So they're going to go into school and be like, I don't know if I can touch that. A kid might say, can I borrow a pencil? One kid might think, oh, whatever, I'm just going to take it. But another child might think, well, if I touch that and I bring it home to my parents, what's going to happen? So it's about like just letting them process all those different thoughts. And I think no matter what age they're at, I would say just take on you're the organizer role. So make sure that they know where everything is. They know that that they've got their pencil. You know that they know where their book is. You know, you're basically mummifying them at the beginning and mollycoddling them at the beginning, because it is all new. As you said, it's going back to the first day of school, essentially.
And actually, one of the cute things that we saw for some of the betweens, which we saw and we suggested, is having like a little token or transitional item. It could be a photograph. It could be like a cute little heart that you guys all draw.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually,
on the hand.
Yeah, and a mum in the heart
on your hand, and when you're feeling scared, look at your heart and you know mummy loves you.
I love that. And it shows we're not on our own. We can do this.
Absolutely. So everyone listening in, I'm sure you're absolutely jumping for joy at the thought of Monday, and it can't come quick enough. But let's be there for our little ones, our friends' children, whoever it is, and be there thinking of them and how they are feeling and how we can help them. I actually wrote a blog this week as well. So if you go to my website, nataliehealy.co.uk, and go to my blogs, there's one on there on mental health for children as well. And obviously, please get in touch with Gemma and Phi to find out a little bit more and how potentially that they could help work with you. And I'm guessing no question will be a silly question for these ladies.
No.
We wish you every success with your business.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. And look forward to seeing everyone again next week. So good night.
Night. Bye-bye.